The night I found my wife's second phone. I was looking for batteries. Funny how life's biggest moments sneak up on you while you're doing something completely mundane, like rummaging through her nightstand drawer for double As because the TV remote died during a Red Sox game. The phone was pink. Hot pink. Vanessa hated pink. I held it in my hand, this cheap little burner that had no business being in our bedroom, and felt something cold settle in my chest. The kind of cold that starts at your heart and spreads outward like frost on a windshield. I knew before I even turned it on. You always know, don't you? You just spend months lying to yourself because the truth is too ugly to look at directly. My name's Eddie Morrison. I'm 38 years old. I sell insurance for a living, and I'm very good at calculating risk. I can tell you the exact probability of your house burning down, your car getting totaled, your life ending prematurely. What I apparently couldn't calculate was the risk of marrying Vanessa Hartwell. The phone had a simple passcode. 1234. Even her affair was lazy. I scrolled through messages that made my stomach turn. Brad. His name was Brad. Of course it was. Brad the personal trainer, with the abs and the Instagram and the vocabulary of a particularly dim golden retriever. The texts were explicit enough to make a sailor blush. Photos too. I won't describe them. Some images you can't unsee, and I'm doing you a favor. What struck me most wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the timeline. 6 months. She'd been sleeping with this guy for 6 months, coming home to our bed, kissing me goodnight, asking me how my day was, all while carrying on like we were still the couple who'd gotten married 7 years ago in that overpriced ceremony her father insisted on. Gerald Hartwell, my father-in-law. Now there was a piece of work. I sat on the edge of our bed, where she'd probably thought about Brad while I lay next to her, and felt something shift inside me. Not heartbreak, exactly. That would come later, in waves, when I least expected it. No, what I felt right then was clarity, cold, perfect clarity. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to rage. I was going to think. My phone buzzed. Dave, my best friend since college, texting about poker night next week. Dave worked in IT, had 3 kids, a wife who actually loved him, and a basement full of tech equipment that would make the NSA jealous. I looked at his message, then at Vanessa's pink phone, then back at Dave's message. I started typing. Noun zinulandenzen, den holds the whiteds, nenulang tetfrin, mir the lana the mods, izoja shade, ihamdan, phases dots. No, numsek pinkt fitu hindern. He was a big guy, 6'2", with a beard that made him look like a lumberjack who'd accidentally wandered into the tech sector. Once you go down this road, Eddie, there's no coming back, I'm sure. Because if you just want a divorce, you don't need all this. You've got the phone. That's evidence enough. I took a long drink. A divorce isn't enough. Dave nodded slowly. He'd met Vanessa. He'd met Gerald. He understood. Okay, he said, turning to his keyboard. Let's start with the basics. You want surveillance? Everything. Cameras, GPS tracking, phone cloning. I want to know every move she makes, every word she says, every lie she tells. That's going to take some time to set up properly. And money. And I've got time. And I've been skimming from our joint account for years, putting it in a separate savings she doesn't know about. Call it my insurance policy. Dave grinned. Man, you really are good at your job. Over the next 3 hours, Dave walked me through the equipment. Tiny cameras I could hide around the house. A GPS tracker, small enough to slip into Vanessa's car. Software that would clone her phone and send every text, call, and photo directly to a secure server. It was invasive. It was probably illegal. I didn't care. What about the father-in-law? Dave asked as I was leaving. I paused at the door. What about him? You said he's part of the problem. Rich guy, right? Real estate developer. Gerald Hartwell owns half the commercial properties in Connecticut. Or he acts like he does. Guys like that always have skeletons. Want me to do some digging? I thought about Gerald, about the way he looked at me across the dinner table every Sunday, like I was something unpleasant he'd found on the bottom of his shoe. About the comments he made, always joking, always with that condescending smile, about how Vanessa could have done better, how I was lucky to have her, how a real man would make more money, drive a better car, be more ambitious. Yeah, I said. Dig deep. Again, you're bald. Not off, Gendy. The cameras went up over the course of a week. One in the bedroom, hidden in the smoke detector. One in the living room, tucked behind a picture frame. One in the kitchen, disguised as a clock. The GPS tracker slipped easily under Vanessa's car seat while she was at work. I felt like a spy in my own home. Maybe I was. Vanessa didn't notice anything different. Why would she? I was good old Eddie, reliable Eddie, boring Eddie who went to work every day and came home every night and never caused any trouble. Eddie who said yes when she wanted to go out with her friends, who didn't complain when she came home at midnight smelling like wine and lies. The footage started rolling in immediately. Dave had set everything up to stream to a private cloud server that only we could access. I watched it on my laptop during lunch breaks, sitting in my car in the office parking lot, eating sandwiches that tasted like cardboard, while my wife screwed her personal trainer on our couch. I'm not going to lie and say it didn't hurt. It did. It hurt like hell. But I kept watching because I needed to know everything, every detail, every lie. Knowledge is power, and I was building an arsenal. The GPS tracking was even more enlightening. Vanessa told me she had late meetings at work. The GPS showed her at Brad's apartment. She said she was going to yoga. The GPS showed her at a hotel downtown. She said she was having lunch with her mother. The GPS showed her at a bar in Hartford with Brad and his meathead friends. I documented everything. Screenshots, timestamps, locations. I built a file that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. But I still wasn't ready to move. Not yet. Neatery. Sunday dinner at Gerald's house was a mandatory weekly event. Missing it was equivalent to treason in the Hartwell family. Gerald's house was exactly what you'd expect from a man who made his money in real estate. A massive colonial in the best neighborhood, professionally decorated, cold as a museum. Helen, my mother-in-law, answered the door. She was a thin woman in her mid-60s, always perfectly dressed, always perfectly composed. I'd never heard her raise her voice. I'd also never seen her smile with her eyes. Eddie, she said, kissing my cheek. You look tired. Long week, I said. Aren't they all? She lowered her voice. Gerald's in a mood. The Riverside deal fell through. Great. Gerald in a mood was like a tornado in a trailer park. Destructive and indiscriminate. Vanessa was already inside, drinking wine with her mother in the kitchen. She looked beautiful. She always looked beautiful. Dark hair, green eyes, the kind of figure that turned heads. It was one of the first things I'd noticed about her, back when we met at a friend's party 10 years ago. Now all I could see when I looked at her was the footage from 3 days ago. Her and Brad in our bed. Hey, babe, she said, kissing me. Her lips tasted like Chardonnay and betrayal. Hey, Gerald emerged from his study like a king from his throne room. He was a big man, 6 feet tall, with silver hair and the kind of tan that came from golf courses and country clubs. He wore his money like a uniform. Eddie, he said, shaking my hand with just a little too much pressure. How's the insurance business? Still selling peace of mind to people who'll never need it? Someone's got to do it, I said evenly. He laughed. That's what I like about you, Eddie. You know your place. Vanessa shot me a look that said, don't start. I smiled and said nothing. I'd learned years ago that arguing with Gerald was like wrestling a pig. You both got dirty, but the pig enjoyed it. Dinner was prime rib, prepared by Helen with the kind of precision that suggested cooking was warfare by other means. We sat at the long dining table, Gerald at the head, holding court. So, Gerald said, cutting into his meat. Vanessa tells me you two are thinking about buying a bigger house. I looked at Vanessa. This was news to me. Just looking, Vanessa said quickly. Nothing serious. Good idea, Gerald continued. That little place of yours is fine for starting out, but you're not kids anymore. Time to upgrade. I could help you find something, give you a good deal. We're fine where we are, I said. Gerald's smile didn't reach his eyes. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're stuck. Same house, same job, same life. Vanessa deserves better than fine, Eddie. Gerald, Helen said quietly. What? I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. My daughter married down. That's fine. But the least Eddie could do is try to climb up a little. The table went silent. Vanessa stared at her plate. Helen sipped her wine. I felt that cold clarity settle over me again. You're right, I said. Gerald blinked. What? You're absolutely right. Vanessa deserves better. Better than a husband who works 60 hours a week to provide for her. Better than someone who's faithful. Better than honest. You're right, Gerald. She should definitely upgrade. The sarcasm in my voice was thick enough to spread on toast. Vanessa's eyes went wide. Gerald's face turned red. Are you being smart with me? No, sir. Just agreeing with you. Helen cleared her throat. Who wants dessert? The rest of the dinner passed in tense silence. Vanessa didn't speak to me on the drive home. When we got to our house, she finally exploded. What the hell was that? What was what? You embarrassed me in front of my parents. I turned to look at her. Really look at her. Did I? I'm sorry. I wouldn't want to embarrass you. That would be terrible. You've been acting weird lately. What's going on with you? Nothing. I'm fine. Everything's fine. She stared at me for a long moment, then shook her head. Sometimes I don't even know who you are anymore. Funny, I said. I was just thinking the same thing about you. I went to bed alone that night. Vanessa stayed up, probably texting Brad on her pink phone, telling him what an asshole her husband was. I lay in the dark and thought about Gerald's face, about the way he talked to me like I was nothing, and I felt something dark and satisfied uncurl in my chest. This was going to be fun. That have spalled me at work. 3 days later. You sitting down. Should I be? Yeah. Gerald Hartwell is dirty, Eddie. Like really dirty. I closed my office door. How dirty? He's been having affairs for years. Plural. I found credit card statements for hotels, restaurants, jewelry. There's a woman in Hartford he's been seeing for 18 months. Another one in Boston. Maybe more. I sat down. Does Helen know? If she does, she's playing it cool. But there's more. His business isn't doing as well as he pretends. The Riverside deal that fell through, that was supposed to save his ass. He's leveraged to the eyeballs. Another few bad deals, and he's going to be in serious trouble. Send me everything. Eddie, what are you planning? I don't know yet, but I'm going to need ammunition. That night, I reviewed the files Dave sent. Gerald Hartwell, pillar of the community, respected businessman, loving husband. It was all a lie. He was just as fake as his daughter. The apple really didn't fall far from the tree. I thought about Helen, sitting in that big cold house, eating dinner with a man who'd been cheating on her for years. Did she know? Did she suspect? Or was she like me, willfully blind because the truth was too painful? I made a decision then. Helen deserved to know. Not yet, but soon. When the time was right. When it would hurt the most. Vanessa's friends were a special kind of terrible. There were 3 of them who formed the core group: Amber, Lisa, and Jessica. They met every Thursday for drinks at a wine bar downtown, where they would get progressively drunker and progressively meaner. I knew this because I'd started following Vanessa. Not every time, I wasn't crazy, but often enough to establish patterns. And one Thursday night, I decided to see what they talked about when they thought no one was listening. The wine bar was trendy and overpriced, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs. I sat at the bar with a beer and a baseball cap pulled low, watching them in the mirror behind the bottles. They were loud. Everyone in the place could hear them. So Brad's amazing, Vanessa was saying. Like, really amazing. I didn't know it could be like that. Amber, a blonde with too much Botox, laughed. Girl, you deserve it. Eddie's such a bore. He is, Vanessa agreed. He's just so there, you know? Like furniture. He goes to work, comes home, watches TV. Where's the excitement? Where's the passion? Lisa, who'd been in my house a dozen times, who'd eaten my food and drunk my beer, nodded sympathetically. You should just leave him. Life's too short. I will, Vanessa said. Eventually. But I need to time it right. I don't want to lose the house. They all laughed. I gripped my beer bottle so hard I thought it might shatter. What about Gerald? Jessica asked. Doesn't he hate Eddie? Oh my God, yes. Daddy can't stand him. He keeps telling me I made a mistake. And you know what? He's right. I did. More laughter. More wine. More casual cruelty. I left before I did something stupid. I sat in my car in the parking lot and breathed deeply, trying to calm the rage that threatened to consume me. They thought I was nothing. They thought I was weak. They thought I was furniture. They were wrong. The next phase required patience. I spent 2 weeks gathering more evidence, building my case, preparing for what was coming. Dave helped me set up a dummy social media account so I could monitor Vanessa's friends without them knowing. The things they posted would have made Satan himself blush. I also started going to the gym, Brad's gym. I told Vanessa I wanted to get in shape, which she thought was hilarious. That's great, honey, she said, not looking up from her phone. Probably texting Brad. The gym was exactly what I expected. Loud music, grunting men, women in yoga pants taking selfies. Brad was there most days, strutting around like a peacock, offering unsolicited advice to anyone who'd listen. I watched him, studied him, learned his patterns. He was predictable. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m., he had a session with Vanessa. They'd work out for an hour, then disappear into his office for another hour. The gym's security cameras didn't cover the office. Convenient. One Tuesday, I followed Brad after work. He drove a red Mustang, because of course he did. He went to a sports bar, Met up with 3 other guys who looked just like him. Gym rats with more muscles than brain cells. I sat in a corner booth and listened. So this chick I'm seeing, Brad was saying. She's married, right? Husband's a total loser. But she's loaded, or her dad is. I'm thinking long term here, boys. His friends laughed and clinked their beer bottles together. You gonna get her to leave him? One asked. Eventually, no rush. Why buy the cow when the milk's free, right? More laughter. I felt my jaw clench. Plus, the husband's clueless. I've met him. Total pushover. He's got no idea what's going on. I stood up then, walked past their table slowly enough that Brad could see my face. His expression went from cocky to confused to slightly worried in about 3 seconds. I didn't say anything, just looked at him, held his gaze until he looked away. Then I left. Let him wonder, let him worry. The fear was just beginning. Well, PM. No, I'm near students. The confrontation at Gerald's house happened 3 weeks after I found the pink phone. I'd planned it carefully, timed it perfectly. Sunday dinner, the whole family together. I arrived early, before Vanessa. Helen let me in, looking surprised. Eddie, you're never early. I wanted to talk to Gerald. Is he in his study? Yes, but I was already walking. Gerald looked up from his desk, annoyed at the interruption. Eddie, what do you want? I closed the door behind me and sat down without being invited. I want to talk about Vanessa. What about her? She's having an affair. Gerald's expression didn't change. That's ridiculous. Is it? Because I have proof. Photos, texts, GPS records. She's been sleeping with her personal trainer for 6 months. He stared at me. If this is some kind of joke, it's not. And here's the interesting part. I don't think you're surprised. I think you knew, or at least suspected. Gerald's face hardened. What do you want, Eddie? Money? Is this blackmail? No. I want you to know that I know. And I want you to know that, before this is over, everyone is going to know. About Vanessa. About you. About me. I smiled. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Hartford. Boston. 18 months. Should I go on? The color drained from Gerald's face. You're bluffing. Am I? Want to bet your marriage on it? Your reputation? Because I've got evidence there too. Credit card statements, hotel records, photos. Gerald stood up, tried to loom over me. You little shit, you think you can threaten me? I'm not threatening you, Gerald. I'm promising you. You've spent years making me feel small, making me feel worthless, telling your daughter she married down. Well, guess what? The worm has turned, and it's got teeth. The study door opened. Helen stood there, Vanessa behind her. They'd heard everything. Gerald? Helen's voice was very quiet, very cold. Is it true? Gerald's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Helen, I can explain. Is it true? The silence stretched out like taffy. Finally, Gerald nodded. Helen turned to Vanessa. And you? Vanessa looked at me with pure hatred. Eddie, you bastard. Answer your mother, I said. Yes, Vanessa spat. Yes, I'm having an affair, because my husband is a boring, pathetic loser who can't satisfy me in any way that matters. Helen's face was a mask. Get out, both of you. Mom, Vanessa started. Get out of my house. Gerald tried to approach his wife. Helen, please, we can talk about this. Don't touch me. Don't speak to me. I want you out, tonight. I stood up. I'll go too. I've said what I came to say. Ooh. Helen looked at me then. Really looked at me. Eddie, thank you. For what? For being honest. It's more than I can say for my family. I left them there, the Hartwell family imploding in that big cold house. Vanessa caught up with me in the driveway. You're going to regret this, she hissed. Probably, but not as much as you will. Mintment. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Vanessa moved in with Brad, which lasted exactly 5 days before he kicked her out. Turns out Brad wasn't interested in a girlfriend who couldn't provide him with access to Daddy's money anymore. She ended up staying with Amber. Gerald tried to salvage his marriage, but Helen was done. She filed for divorce immediately, and her lawyer, a woman with a reputation for taking men to the cleaners, went after him like a shark after chum. The affairs, the financial problems, all of it came out in the filing. The local newspaper got hold of it. Gerald's business partners started asking questions. His carefully constructed image crumbled. I filed for divorce too. No fault, quick and clean. Vanessa tried to fight it, but the pink phone and all my evidence made her lawyer advise settlement. She got nothing. The house was in my name only. I'd bought it before we got married, and Connecticut law was clear. She walked away with her clothes and her car and her ruined reputation, but I wasn't done yet. Vanessa's friends, Amber, Lisa, and Jessica, had stood by her at first. They'd posted on social media about what a terrible person I was, how I'd destroyed a marriage out of spite, how Vanessa was the real victim. They'd spread rumors about me around town, told anyone who'd listen that I was abusive, controlling, unstable, so I invited them to coffee. All three of them, together. They came out of curiosity more than anything else, I think. We met at a Starbucks on a Saturday morning. "Ladies," I said, sitting down with my latte. "Thanks for coming." "What do you want, Eddie?" Amber asked. She'd been the ringleader of the social media campaign against me. "I want to show you something." I pulled out my laptop and turned it around. On the screen was a video compilation. Vanessa and Brad, in various compromising positions, in various locations, time-stamped, dated, undeniable. Their faces went pale. "That's," Lisa started. "Evidence," I said. "Evidence that I've had for months. Evidence that proves Vanessa was cheating long before I destroyed our marriage. Evidence that makes all of you look like either liars or idiots for defending her." "Why are you showing us this?" Jessica asked quietly. "Because I want you to know the truth, and I want you to think about what you did. You spread lies about me. You tried to ruin my reputation. You took her side without knowing the facts, and now you know." I closed the laptop. "I'm not going to post this online. I'm not going to sue you for defamation, even though I could. I'm just going to let you sit with the knowledge that you were wrong, that you hurt someone who didn't deserve it, that you're not as good at judging character as you think you are." I stood up. "Have a nice day, ladies." I left them there, staring at each other, the weight of their guilt settling over them like a shroud. Within a week, all three had deleted their posts about me. Within 2 weeks, they'd stopped talking to Vanessa entirely. Turns out loyalty only goes so far when you realize you backed the wrong horse. Brad was the last piece of the puzzle. I'd saved him for last because I wanted to savor it. He'd been trying to rebuild his reputation after Vanessa left, posting inspirational quotes on Instagram, talking about personal growth and learning from mistakes. His client list had taken a hit, but he was slowly recovering. I decided to help him with his personal growth. I hired him for personal training sessions, used a fake name, paid cash, wore a baseball cap and sunglasses to our first meeting. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? I was just furniture. We trained twice a week for a month. I let him talk, let him brag, let him tell me about his life. He mentioned Vanessa once, called her a crazy ex who tried to ruin my life. He had no idea who he was talking to. On our last session, I asked him to spot me on the bench press. He stood over me, hands ready to catch the bar if I faltered. I did 3 reps, then stopped. "Hey, Brad," I said, looking up at him. "Remember me?" I took off the sunglasses. His face went white. "Oh shit, yeah, oh shit." I racked the bar and sat up. "We need to talk." "Look, man, I'm sorry." "Shut up. I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to listen. You slept with my wife. You disrespected my marriage. You called me a loser and a pushover. And you know what? You were right. I was a pushover, but not anymore." I stood up. Brad was bigger than me, more muscular, but he backed away. "I could hurt you," I said quietly. "I could ruin your business, your reputation, your life. I have evidence that would make you unemployable in this town. But I'm not going to do that. You know why?" He shook his head. "Because you're not worth it. You're nothing. You're a joke. You're a walking cliché with abs and no brain. Vanessa traded down when she chose you, and she knows it now. Everyone knows it. You're already ruined. I don't need to do anything." I walked toward the door, then turned back. "Oh, and Brad, if I ever see you again, anywhere, I'm going to make you wish I'd just beaten you up today. Clear?" He nodded, speechless. I left the gym and never went back. Dotamili Loof. 6 months after I found the pink phone, I was sitting in my house, not ours anymore, drinking a beer and watching the Red Sox. The divorce was final. Vanessa was living in a small apartment across town, working a job she hated because Gerald couldn't help her anymore. Gerald and Helen's divorce was still ongoing, but Helen was winning. She'd kept the house, most of the assets, and her dignity. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Eddie? It's Helen." "Helen, hi. How are you?" "I'm well, thank you. I wanted to call and thank you properly. For telling the truth. For having the courage to blow everything up. I'm not sure courage is the right word. It is. You could have just divorced Vanessa quietly. Instead, you exposed all of us. Forced us to face reality. It was cruel, in a way. but it was also kind. How do you figure? Because now I'm free. I spent 30 years with a man who didn't love me, didn't respect me, didn't deserve me, and I might have spent 30 more if you hadn't spoken up. So thank you. You're welcome. There's something else, something I think you should know. What's that? I knew. About Gerald's affairs. I've known for years. I sat up straight. You knew. Of course I knew. I'm not stupid, Eddie. But I was comfortable. I had my house, my friends, my life. It was easier to pretend, until you made it impossible to pretend anymore. You forced my hand, and I'm grateful. I don't know what to say. Say you'll come to dinner sometime. I'm a much better cook when I'm not furious. I laughed. I'd like that. We hung up. I sat there for a long time, thinking about Helen, about Gerald, about Vanessa, about how many people walk through life pretending, lying, hiding, about how sometimes it takes one person to tell the truth to bring the whole house of cards down. The Red Sox won in the 9th inning. I raised my beer to the TV. To truth, I said to the empty room, and to revenge. Me think it poom. A year later, I was doing fine. Better than fine, actually. I'd gotten a promotion at work. I'd started dating someone new, a woman named Claire who worked at the library, who laughed at my jokes and didn't have a pink phone. I'd even reconciled with some old friends who'd heard the truth about what happened and reached out to apologize for believing the rumors. Vanessa, from what I heard, was not doing as well. She'd bounced from job to job, apartment to apartment. Her friends had abandoned her. Brad had moved to Florida. Gerald had declared bankruptcy and was living in a condo in New Haven, a shadow of his former self. I didn't feel bad for them. I didn't feel good either. I just felt satisfied, like I'd balanced an equation that had been wrong for too long. Helen and I had dinner once a month. She'd become something like a friend, which was weird but nice. She'd started her own business, interior design, and it was thriving. She looked younger, happier, free. Mew. You ever regret it? She asked me once, over coffee. Blowing everything up? Sometimes, I admitted. It wasn't exactly the mature way to handle things. Maybe not. But it was effective. It was that, she smiled. You know what Gerald said to me right before he moved out? What? He said, that son of a bitch Eddie destroyed this family. And I said, no. You did. He just turned on the lights. I laughed. How'd he take that? About as well as you'd expect. We clinked our coffee cups together. Two survivors of the Hartwell family disaster. The final act came 18 months after I found the pink phone. I was at the grocery store, pushing a cart through the produce section, when I saw her. Vanessa. She looked older, tired. The kind of tired that comes from the inside. She saw me too. For a moment, we just stared at each other across a display of apples. Then she walked over. Eddie. Vanessa. You look good. Nod. Thanks. You look tired. She laughed bitterly. That's one word for it. I heard you're seeing someone. I am. Good. That's good. She paused. I'm sorry for what I did, for what I said, for all of it. I studied her face, looking for manipulation, for an angle. I didn't see one, just exhaustion and regret. Okay, I said. Okay, that's it? What do you want me to say, Vanessa? That I forgive you? That we can be friends? That's not going to happen. I know. I wanted you to know that I know I was wrong, that I ruined everything, that it's my fault. It is your fault. Yours and your father's and Brad's, but mostly yours. She nodded. I deserve that. You deserve a lot more than that. But I'm done. I'm done being angry, done thinking about you, done letting you take up space in my head. You're just someone I used to know, someone who made bad choices and paid for them. That's all. I pushed my cart past her, toward the checkout. Eddie, she called after me. I turned. Do you think, she swallowed hard, do you think I can ever fix this? Fix myself? I thought about it, really thought about it. I don't know, I said honestly, but that's not my problem anymore. Good luck, Vanessa. I left her there in the produce section, standing alone among the apples and oranges, and I felt something lift off my shoulders. The last weight, the last chain. I was free. Boklums. That night, I told Claire about running into Vanessa. We were at my place, cooking dinner together, and it just came out. How did it feel? Claire asked, chopping vegetables with practiced ease. Strange. She apologized. Did you accept? I acknowledged it. That's not the same thing. Claire nodded. You're not obligated to forgive her, you know. Despite what everyone says about forgiveness being for yourself, not them. I know, and I don't forgive her. But I'm also not angry anymore. Is that the same thing? I think it's better. Anger keeps you connected. Indifference sets you free. I kissed her then, grateful for her wisdom, her kindness, her presence in my life. She kissed me back, and I thought about how different this felt from what I had with Vanessa. Real, honest, clean. Later, after dinner, after Claire had gone home, I sat on my back porch with a beer and looked up at the stars. I thought about the past 18 months, about everything that had happened, everyone who'd been hurt. Had I done the right thing? I didn't know. Probably not, by most people's standards. I'd been vindictive, calculating, cruel. I'd destroyed relationships and reputations. I'd hurt people who'd hurt me, and I'd done it deliberately. But I'd also told the truth. I'd exposed lies and hypocrisy. I'd refused to be a victim, refused to be furniture, refused to let them walk all over me without consequences. Maybe that made me a bad person, or maybe it just made me human. I finished my beer and went inside. Tomorrow I had work, had a date with Claire, had a life to live. A good life, an honest life, a life I'd built from the ashes of my marriage. Vanessa and Gerald and Brad, they were all in the past now. Ghosts, memories, lessons learned, and I was finally, truly, completely free.